Hello, today I'm going to talk to you about 10 thriller books you should read this fall. These are not all specifically fall themed books, but I still think that they're really great thrillers to read to put you in the spooky season mood. I did make sure none of these were specifically winter books, so even if they are like springtime or summer books, the setting isn't driving anything in the story. I really enjoyed all of these books. I gave all of them between 4 and 5 stars. So let's get into the recommendations. I'm so excited to talk about these books. The first recommendation is The Death of Mrs Westway by Ruth Ware. Ruth Ware is so popular, but I feel like this one does not get as much hype as it deserves. So in this book, we are following Harriet Westway, and she receives a letter at the very beginning telling her that she has received an inheritance, but she knows that this is not actually for her because her grandparents are already dead. So there's no way that she's actually related to this person. But she is down on her luck, is really struggling with money, so she decides to go and collect it anyway. She has to go to the will reading and then collect everything, and she gets there and there's tons of other family members there as well. So like she's trying to hide the fact that she does not belong there. She doesn't know anybody. So she's very much the outsider, and she very quickly realizes that things with this inheritance and the family are not what they should be. I think this one has really great atmosphere. I think that it has a really fun plot. It's an inheritance book that is done really well. Everybody is kind of terrible, which makes it really fun to read. So I think this is a great one to read this fall. Next up, I have The Roanoke Girls by Amy Engel. This one has some very disturbing family relationships in it, so just warning you about that. It's a tough read. It deals so much with relationships between family members and the trauma that can come from that and the awful things that can happen when people feel like they have too much power over other people. It's disturbing, it's very dark, but I think it's done in a way that is both a very interesting read and also respectful. I feel like nothing in this book is like glorifying what's happening, and it's just bringing light to the horrors of situations like this, because sadly this is something that people go through. So we are following Lane, and she moves in with her grandparents and her cousin Allegra after her mom commits suicide. She didn't know very much about her mom's family. She had removed herself from everybody, and Lane had no relationship with them. And then she gets herself out of the situation, and 11 years later she goes back because her cousin has gone missing. So she goes back and she's dealing with the guilt of leaving her cousin and also reconnecting with some different people around the town. There are lots of horrible family secrets in this one, and it's a very compelling read. Another book that explores a lot of really intense family dynamics is Strange Sally Diamond by Liz Nugent. This is another very dark and disturbing psychological book. This one is in the thriller category, but I feel like it's a little bit more of a character study than a lot of thrillers usually are. So we are following Sally, and at the very beginning, her father has died, and we are witnessing her kind of taking something that he said very literally, even though it's kind of illegal. And then she finds out that he has left these letters for her explaining everything that happened in her past. So she was adopted, and now she is 43, and she can't remember any of the details of her childhood before she came to be with her new parents. Her adopted father was a psychiatrist. So we are learning about everything that happened in her past, all the horrific traumas that she went through to get her to how she is today. And then there's also a situation where a stranger from New Zealand sends her a familiar teddy bear in the mail and starts calling her by a different name. So we are following Sally trying to figure everything out, and we are also getting some information in the past. It is heartbreaking. It is disturbing. It deals so much with trauma and our responses to that, and nature versus nurture, and it's just so well done. Absolutely incredible. Next, we have The Return of Ellie Black, and this is following Ellie Black as she returns from being missing. You don't need to know anything else. No, I'm just kidding. So Ellie went missing 2 years ago. Yes, she was a teenager and she went missing, but she's been found alive in the woods, and we are following Ellie, and we are also following a detective whose sister vanished 20 years ago, and that kind of inspired her to be part of the detective force and working on cases like this. And we are figuring out what happened to Ellie, where she was, and also everything that happened in the past. A very similar synopsis, actually, is Appetite for Innocence by Lucinda Berry. We are following Ella, who has escaped being held captive, and she risks it all to set herself and the others free. And then there's another girl who ends up getting out as well. And this is a very psychological take on something like this, seeing how being held captive and dealing with these extremely traumatic experiences impacts you and your view of the world and other people. It's a very tough read, but so compelling. It's done in a way that like makes you just need to know what happened. And I just think that the psychological aspect of this was so intriguing. Lucinda Berry is a former trauma psychologist, and I think that really shows. I think exploring the themes of trauma, especially in like teenage girls with these situations, is so heartbreaking. But also, this is another thing where this happens to people. I think this book is incredible, and there's more than meets the eye in this book. Even with the psychological stuff, there's still a lot of things going on, pieces that are fitting together, and it's such a great read. Next, I have Look in the Mirror by Catherine Steadman. This is following a woman whose father has recently passed away. She finds out that he has left her a house that she knew nothing about. She's his only remaining relative, so she's like, how did he have an entire very rich like island house without her knowing? So she goes there and is starting to figure everything out. The house is clearly his. So that's Nina. We're also following Maria, who is a medical student, but she is kind of taking a break so that she can get enough money to pay for her bills. And to do that, she is a nanny for rich people. And she gets to this house and no one's there. She keeps contacting people like, where are they? And they're like, oh, they're coming, but don't go in that room. From there, things were not what I was expecting. I don't want to spoil it in any way for you, but it was so fun. I would highly recommend not knowing any more about this book, but like, it's a really great read. Next, I have The Clinic by Kate Quinn. This is a book that I feel like is very unique in the thriller genre. So we are following our main character, Meg, who finds out that her sister Haley has just died in a rehab facility. So she decides she's going to check herself in and figure out what happened to her sister, because she does not believe that she would have killed herself. Even though her sister was dealing with addictions, she just like really does not believe the story that everybody has told. She's also very much dealing with her own kinds of addictions. So like, she should be using this opportunity to kind of better herself as well, but she just gets so caught up in everything that is happening with her sister. She gets very obsessive. There's a lot of commentary on trauma and grief and addiction in this, and I really liked the psychological, like, clinical take on this. There's a little stuff with that made this a very unique thriller. Then we have A Step Past Darkness by Vera Kurian. This is following 6 classmates in 2 different timelines. In the past, something very wrong happened and they all separate and they don't have any contact with each other. But then in the present, one of them dies and they are going back for the funeral, and it has been 20 years since that terrifying night. This one is a bit of a genre blend. It's very fun. It has some cult stuff in it, some investigating. It's really a fun time. Then I have The Collective by Allison Galen, and this is following a mother whose daughter died 5 years ago, and she is still obsessed with the person that she believes to be responsible. She draws the attention of a secret group of women called The Collective, where they are there to get justice when the system does not provide that for them. It's such a compelling read. There's a lot of emotion in this one, and I really enjoyed it. And last, I have Listen for the Lie by Amy Tintera. This is following a woman who goes back to her hometown. She was accused and acquitted of murdering her best friend. She's found with her blood all over her. The entire town is like, you did it. You can't tell us any differently. We don't like you. But then this podcaster comes in. He's very popular and he is working on this case. So they end up working together to figure out what's going on. She has no memories of the night. She does not know what happened to her friend, but nobody believes her. The audiobook for this one is incredible. This one is just such a fun time. Like, I had such a great time reading it. So here are 10 thrillers that I think you should read this fall. There's a wide range of aspects of thrillers in here, some more psychological stuff, some more clinical stuff, some more fun stuff. If you've already read some of these books, I'd love to know your thoughts on them in the comments. Let me know if you plan on picking up any of them. If you've made it to the end and want to leave me an emoji, you can leave me a leaf for Appetite for Innocence. Thanks for hanging out. I hope to see you soon. Bye.